It's Newcastle United versus City. It's a fight for Champions League. It's a 6-pointer game. Who's going to come out on top? Let's find out right here on Toon Tactics TV, folks.
Oh, brilliant from Share. And now Murphy could take on the shot. Fabian Share
All right. Good evening, guys. I hope you are all well. I hope you are all having a great week and you've had a blessed day. I am looking forward to today's show. Not only are we going to be talking about the match preview against the Citizens, obviously at the Etihad Stadium, it is a 6-pointer game. We're both fighting for that Champions League spot. Who would have thought we'll be saying this a year ago? But it is the case right now. That's what's happening for Newcastle United. We're going to talk about that. We're going to give that match preview, but we're also going to talk about a little bit bits of information and news that have come. Obviously, this week, a potential right winger coming to Newcastle, or at least Newcastle are scouting a right winger that we're going to talk about. Going to do play a profile on him, but also some news around PSR and keeping it, and is it a good thing? And on the back of the show we had last time, when we talked about everything to do with Newcastle in regards to PSR, wages to turnover, where Newcastle are at financially, and how they're essentially probably kind of speculating around how they're building the squad around that. Is this PSR news good for Newcastle? So, as always, the show is packed. The show is ready. We've got folks in the chat already. John Boy, evening to you, John Boy. I hope you are well. I hope you are having a great day. And let me know how you're feeling about the Man City game. Are you confident? What is your thoughts on the game in terms of Newcastle United and hopefully winning the game? Right. I first wanted to talk about, before we go into the match preview, like I said, I wanted to first talk about just a couple bits of information, couple bits of news that we saw today. Relatively quick, around the PSR stuff. So there was news today. Where are you? There was news today essentially around PSR and that it was keeping it. All the Premier League clubs met in some swanky hotel and decided that, hey, we are keeping PSR at least for this season. We're not introducing this new SCR wages, and which is essentially wages to turnover, but it also includes transfer fees, where essentially clubs can only spend can only spend and keep their cost has to be 85% proportion to their revenue. So it's a little bit different to what we talked about on Tuesday in terms of the wages to turnover, which is literally focusing on the wages part. The SCR focuses on everything essentially. The SCR focuses on the transfer fees, wages, everything, and says that clubs can only have 85% of this as well. So the Premier League clubs talked about it and said, "No, we'll keep PSR at least for another year." So essentially, from if you guys can remember, when we talked about, in fact, after what we talked about last time, I felt that in terms of speculating everything around transfers, around PSR, where are we? I think we're in a good space, especially on the back of not buying any players, and selling the likes of Almiron, selling the likes of selling the likes of Kelly. And I've estimated essentially on the back of those deals that by June the 30th, even before June, where our initial position, speculating that our initial position was like we're 59 million pounds under the PSR threshold. After the June date, when the third cycle falls away, I think we'll be about 74 million pounds under the PSR threshold as well. So it's a lot of headroom. If you want to know what that means, essentially Newcastle, they're not going to do this, but if in a world where you're talking about PSR, they could buy about 7 players for 60 million pounds each. They're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. I've speculated. My own speculation was I think they're going to spend about 133 million to do that. So that's what Newcastle are keeping. Excuse me, that's what the Premier League is keeping. The PSR, of which Newcastle have done very, very well to keep themselves under. Not all clubs have done that, and so it gives Newcastle a. So when I was thinking about is this decision by the Premier League clubs, by the Premier League itself, good in terms of keeping the PSR? Where Newcastle have positioned themselves in terms of Newcastle themselves, yes. And if you ask me, do I like PSR? No. I do think it was designed to keep the clubs at the top, but the game's the game. Are Newcastle in a good position currently? I believe so. We are. From everything that we've looked at, from Swiss Ramble, looking at financial experts like Kieran Maguire, Professor Robson, kind of putting the things that we talked about in terms of working it out. I think Newcastle in a very, very good PSR situation. I think Newcastle, and I believe Newcastle to be in a decent at least wages to turnover position as well. SCR may be a little bit different. Maybe we're about. I didn't do the figures on that. I've kind of seen what people have said in the comments. People that seem to know what they're saying. It looks like if we were to turn to it, that 85%, including wages and transfer fees and everything together, Newcastle probably right on the money on that, but very little room to maneuver. So yeah, glad that we kept PSR. I think it will be an advantage going into this transfer window. So really, really happy about that. Couple of other bits of information that we saw today appear on X. Interestingly, we're going to talk about a right winger. Well, there's two, but I'll mention the first one, Johan Bakayoko, because we talked about him in the show on Tuesday. He came up again. We're not going to talk about it in length, but essentially I just wanted to say that he came up again via a Belgian journalist. So obviously Bakayoko plays for Belgium. He's a Belgian player. And the Belgian journalist, I think it's Saka Tavaleri, basically said that Newcastle United are ready to make a 40 million euro bid, which is 33 million pounds offer to sign Bakayoko from PSV Eindhoven in the summer. So it's a very bold claim, and it's a very, very specific number. And I don't know if you guys remember this. I was going to say I'm not patting myself on the back. Maybe I am, but I had no idea that was going to happen, essentially. But interestingly, though, I did say on Tuesday. If you guys see, this is what I said on Tuesday. Where is it? I estimated that Newcastle would. Where are you? I basically said that I felt on average, so Newcastle I think will ultimately spend around 133 million pounds this summer on 4 players, and that would round up to around, here we go. That would be, I don't know if you guys can see it here, that would be an average spend of 33 million pounds, 0.3 per player. So I was smiling to myself when the Belgian journalist said Newcastle are willing to spend 33 million pounds in the transfer fees for Bakayoko. So I got lucky there. But again, we're talking about being in the right ballpark, and you know, it's good to see that. Like I said, I'm not totally off field, and we got lucky there. I suppose. So, you know, we said 33 million pound average spend would be about 33 pound per player, and it definitely appears to be, you know, at least a coincidence that Belgian journalist thinks that Newcastle now they're going to offer, like he said, 33 million pounds in UK money, 40 million pounds in euro for Bakayoko. And we've done Bakayoko before, and if these rumors continue, especially on Bakayoko, we'll be talking about that. There was another right one we're going to talk about as well, but some people rubbish these type of news sometimes because it's come from abroad. But if you think about it, when Newcastle United don't any information about Newcastle United that we hear from our Newcastle United journalists like Craig Hope, Mark Douglas, Lee Ryder, all those other guys, the information they get are the information the club want them to get most of the time, I think. But they can't control what happens from the player sides or the club sides that they're looking at. So they can't control what PSV Eindhoven directors and what Bakayoko's agent is saying to them. In fact, some of the information that the agent has given away was, I think in other stories, was that, it says even here, Eindhoven in the summer transfer window, and talks have already begun with his agent. So his agent and I think this information has come from Bakayoko's agent, to be honest with you. This is why I think, reading between the lines, he's saying, hey, Newcastle are going to make an offer for him, and we've already begun stories. So again, it could be his agent drumming up business or drumming up interest or whatnot, but it's been pretty consistent. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And look, as the summer business heats up, I'll be trying to get you guys a lot more takes on Bakayoko. But Bakayoko isn't the right wing that I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the right wing I'm going to do a little profile on in a few minutes. But I want to first say evening to Aaron Kane, who's also here. Evening, Philip. Evening to you, sir. I hope you are well. I hope you had a great day. Evening, Mr. David Vage. I hope you are doing well as well, sir. So that was the news on Bakayoko. There's a couple other little bits as well. Like I said, on some of these players. So from the Athletic, from Keith Downey, obviously from Sky Sports. Starting off at the top, I'm going to zoom in because I remember that it is a bit small sometimes. So starting off with Mr. Dubravka, again going back to what we were saying, Dubravka himself confirmed to Keith Downey that they have indeed. So this is Martin Dubravka has confirmed to Sky Sports that he is close to signing a new contract extension at Newcastle United. And again, this goes back to what we were saying on Tuesday around Newcastle United, around building this team, building the squad, that we're probably going to see them try and keep Pope, try and keep Dubravka. Pope's on a year, has got a year left on his contract anyway. So for me, I think obviously Dubravka has obviously been honest and saying, I think the contract has been, I'm very, very close to signing a new contract. It makes sense. It adds to the depth. It adds to the experience, and I personally believe, I still think that Newcastle will buy a new goalkeeper, ball-playing goalkeeper, on top of having Pope and Dubravka and probably Gillespie on with that. If they can, they'll sell Vladi Carmos. Some of this, and Roddy will probably leave as well. Right, so that's Dubravka. The other news was on Callum Wilson. I don't know if you guys saw this, and it's mixed. It all depends on how people report this information on Callum Wilson and the whole situation. And I'll tell you what essentially how the news was released, and how I'm reading between the lines of what it all means. So essentially, it came out that via The Athletic, which I take it to be a tier 1 newspaper, that Newcastle United are not planning to extend. So there's an option for Newcastle United to extend Callum Wilson's contract, but they're not going to take it. They're going to let him go for free. So I was gonna be like, oh, okay, right. Looks like Callum Wilson isn't going to stay. I kind of speculated on Tuesday that he might do or whatnot, which we still don't know. But then when you read The Athletic, it wasn't Mark Douglas. Who was the gentleman's name? I think his name is Mark as well, but I forgot his surname. Who's the gentleman that he represents the Northeast? I swear it's Mark something. I forgot his name at The Athletic. But what essentially he said was, he was speculating. He said his wording was essentially, you'd suspect that because of Callum Wilson's injuries, his age, that Newcastle and the fact of his wages that Newcastle will be letting him go. So that's Mark, and I think his name's Mark. I forgot his. I always read this. Mark Douglas. Mark Douglas. No, it's not Mark Douglas. Guys, if you guys know, it's on The Athletic anyway. He suspects that Newcastle are going to let him go. So that's according to him. But when you get people on X kind of reiterating that story, they're all saying, oh, the Athletic saying that Newcastle are going to let him go, which is only half truth. The journalist in The Athletic suspects, he thinks it's his opinion, and you have to, these guys, they use, they're journalists, they're really good with words, they're very diplomatic with their words, for a reason. And I just took it from me. This is what he suspects. I would have thought the same thing if I just listened to the people that were reporting on what The Athletic said. It looks like The Athletic have confirmed that he's going to go, but it's not. It's their opinion that they think, for the fact that he's old, his wages are high, he's injury prone, they're going to let him go. Right. So following that report, there was a report from TBR Football's chief correspondent, Graham Bailey. I like Graham Bailey. I've seen him a lot on the Loaded Mag. Big up the Loaded Mag as well. I like his football takes as well. But he followed up on that, and I suspect that Graham Bailey. So essentially, this is what they said. So West Ham considering making a move for Callum Wilson. This is on the same day. Sources have now told Graham Bailey, TBR sources, I think it's player agents here, TBR Football's chief correspondent, that Newcastle are open to letting Wilson leave on a free transfer at the end of the season. Interesting. However, Eddie Howe's side could yet exercise the 1-year option in 32-year-old's contract. Okay. Right? And lastly, but TBR Football understands that Wilson does not expect to be a Newcastle player. How does he know that? Only the agent can tell him that, right? If you're reading between the lines. By the end of the current campaign, and his sights are set on staying in the Premier League. Right. So I would love to hear what you guys' thoughts are all on this, from The Athletic to TBR. This is my thoughts. Reading between the lines, this is Philip's version of events. And it might be, I just want to be proven right that I think Callum Wilson's going to stay, because it makes sense to how I think Newcastle develop their squad, perhaps. So I have to be very open to that and my own biases. What I think possibly happened, reading between the lines of these reports, is, and this can happen, is The Athletic made an opinion that Newcastle will likely sell or leave. Let Callum leave on a free, because Callum is old, he's high in wages, and he's injury prone. Then the other, folks on X, or from X, or from other outlets, newspapers, content creators, have essentially just said, the Athletic have said, if you see the reports, the Athletic have said Callum Wilson's going to leave. So Newcastle are going to let Callum Wilson leave. I suspect Graham Bailey, being a good journalist, contacts Callum Wilson's agent and says to him, hey, there's all this news that Newcastle are going to let your boy go. And the agent is basically kind of is going to back his client and say, yeah, but okay, fine. Is it true? Okay, he's probably seeing it as well. Doesn't know that the Athletic's really given an opinion and not a statement of fact. He's probably thinking somebody at the Athletic has spoken to somebody at Newcastle United and they've given them that information, but it isn't. It was an opinion from the journalist, and he said, no, well, West Ham are also interested, which could again be true, and this club is interested, and yeah, he doesn't, and Callum Wilson doesn't expect to be staying there anyway. Callum Wilson's going to go. He's not being. He doesn't expect to be. He's going to go anyway, and he's going to be in the Premier League anyway. So, sticking up for his client. So that's my take on it. And then you find out first day the transfer window opens, Callum Wilson leaves. And look, it can also always be like that. He's going to be. If you're thinking, he's going to be leaving on the free. He's going to have a pretty good signing on fee for whatever club he chooses to play for. West Ham, Bournemouth, maybe goes back to Bournemouth and stuff like that. So you won't be surprised to leave him. for him to leave. But the common theme between what Graham Bailey has said and what the Athletic have said is they don't know what Newcastle plan to do. Neither of these sources, Graham Bailey or the Athletic, have directly spoken to Newcastle United. No one has leaked. So Newcastle have been very stum. They don't know what Eddie Howe's thinking. They don't know what Paul Mitchell's thinking. So they've been quite clear on that. It's just what an opinion of one journalist and the agent of Callum Wilson, who I believe is the agent of Callum Wilson, taking information third hand from Graham Bailey and others that, hey, Newcastle plan to leave him without actually speaking to the club themselves. So that's my thoughts on it. Let me know what you guys think. Maybe I'm overcomplicating it, but we will see. From that same article, though, and let me see, you guys got a few comments here before I read on to the other information. Petras Gilbus, good to see you, sir. Good evening to you. Hello, Wilson will not take pay as you go Wilson will not take pay as you go play, so let him go. Is very logical. Possibly, I don't know if you saw my. I wouldn't be surprised if they let him go. It frees up a lot of wages, and again, it leaves room for other players to come in. I base my thinking is based on what I said last show, was Newcastle are squad building. If you look at Newcastle's and partly what was said on the I newspaper, who I believe speak to Paul Mitchell, Newcastle, in my opinion, are obviously growing and developing their squad. It was announced in that same article that Newcastle are looking for a striker, another striker to add to what they've already got. Now, at the moment, we've got Isak, Callum Wilson, and Osola. And if Newcastle add another striker, obviously we've been linked to Mateta recently. Interestingly, I said Hugo Ekitike would be ideal, but Eintracht Frankfurt came out today and said, hey, no, he were planning to keep him for another year and put an 80 million price tag on him. Fair enough. We've done the same thing with Isak. So my thoughts were that if Callum Wilson goes, Newcastle won't rely on a raw talent like Osola to rotate with Isak. They have to buy a new striker, but I think they want to again have a little bit more bodies in their squad, a little bit more rotation in their squad. So why buy another replacement for Wilson when you can just simply renew his contract? Yes, he's injury prone, but if he can do at least 10 to 15 games, he's got experience and he's good and he still scores goals when he plays. So you have this new striker rotating with Isak. Maybe it's a Mateta, for instance. I don't think that's a bad rotation. Might be João Pedro, maybe from Brighton. I think he's a lovely player and a player that we've looked for before. And interestingly, Brighton have brought in a young player, Zamos or Simos, who Newcastle were linked to before. And I suspect Simos, this Greek international boy, is going to take over from João Pedro next year. And João Pedro is probably up for sale. Probably go between, I think João Pedro might go somewhere between 40 to 60 million. So imagine if you do get a João Pedro type of striker to rotate with Isak, to have Callum Wilson. It also gives you the flexibility of keeping Osola, or most likely what I think will happen, Osola will go out on loan, probably to a newly promoted side. One of two things happens. Osola smashes it, gets 20 GA, and therefore we say, hey, we're going to keep you. And then next season, let go of Callum Wilson. So now we've got Isak. Hopefully Isak stays. Isak, João Pedro, and a 20 GA Osola. Otherwise, if Osola doesn't do so good or isn't as good, but still kind of proves that he's decent, we can probably sell him on and make a profit on him. So I think that Newcastle would benefit more from a financial and player perspective. I don't think either Eddie Howe or Paul Mitchell are itching to kick Callum Wilson out of Newcastle United, in my opinion. So yeah, let me know what you think of that. Is my thoughts. So before a couple more comments before I move on. Petras Gilbas, I think we should sell Barnes. Too good for bench, not good enough to start. But that's excellent. But in terms of that's an excellent rotation piece. I think you got to have. That's why I think we'll probably try to improve his contract. You don't want to sell Barnes because it's hard to replace a Barnes, and it costs you more money. It's better to renew his contract and say to him, "Look, hopefully we're playing Champions League, we're playing Europe, we're going to be rotating you. You're going to get, under that, you're probably going to get 1,000, 1,200 minutes, 1,500 minutes probably next season as well, rotating with Isaac, rotating with Gordon and the likes of you." So it's just more cost effective to keep a Barnes, but also player football wise to have someone of that quality. If you look around the league, the depth, the quality levels between Gordon and Barnes, you're not going to find that same kind of difference in levels. Are so close in other teams, and that's what makes a good squad. That's what makes a competitive squad that can compete on all four fronts. So I think we try to do our best, even though I've seen him and Barnes and Longstaff. It's been intimated that Newcastle will be willing to sell. I'll be surprised if he goes, but I think the better thing will be try to keep him as well. Oh, I don't think I said hello to Consistent Mag. Consistent Mag, good to see you, sir. Welcome. Hope you have a good evening. Wilson would be great for a newly promoted side. He probably would be. I think, I think it'd be great to keep him for another year. In my opinion, we need another prolific striker to give competition to Isak. I agree. I think João Pedro, Hugo Ekitike, possibly Mateta, but the first two I think would be great. Wants to start and cover up competitions and micro injuries. Striker to give competition to Isak and cover up in cup competitions and micro injuries from issues, etc. Also, if you make Europe and have 2 games a week, it's a must. I agree. And finally, I'll read one more from you before I go back to the other players. Regarding Barnes, I think he is in his prime and wants to play and wants to start, so it will be difficult to keep him happy. I think it would be an option to take a younger player with a bigger ceiling. Yes, I think that's definitely an option there. Like Hakon, I talked about Hakon Haraldsson from Lille. I just think if Newcastle United, there's a lot riding this season. If Newcastle win the League Cup and hey, maybe by the grace of God win the League Cup and the FA Cup, for instance, or even if we qualify for the Champions League, I think Barnes got to ask himself, and then then the news comes out that Newcastle are looking to build a new stadium. The training ground has already been announced as well. He's got to ask himself, I want to play more minutes. I want to be the main man, but am I going to get this type of opportunity again to kind of rise with a club, play Champions League football, win cups? Am I? Maybe he will. Maybe there's somebody, maybe that, from the big 6 clubs or across Europe, maybe a Dortmund or they might come in for him. Maybe that could be that. It will be difficult to keep someone like him, but ideally, I think we could, if we get into Europe. There's a very high likelihood that we'll be playing 50 plus games next season as well. He's definitely going to get more minutes. It's not going to be all Gordon now as well. He'll be playing now actually, but obviously he's injured as well. All right, so the other stuff, I'm going to go through it quickly as well. The Athletic did confirm that both Shaw and Kraft are in conversation for a new contract. We've talked about that before. Makes a lot of sense. I think they are very close to be signed up already. So this other right winger that I do want to talk about, that Newcastle have been said to be scouting, Nicholas Kuhn. So essentially Craig Hope. And before that, I want to give credit to Oliver Gill, who's also a journalist. He at first said this in early January. Craig Hope has followed up on this, I think today, that Newcastle scouts have been scouting Mr. Nicholas Kuhn, plays for Celtic. I'm going to get a little bit more information on him right now. He plays right wing. They've been attending the Celtic games and were there yesterday when Celtic played in the Champions League. Very interesting that Newcastle are scouting this gentleman. I'm still learning a lot about him. So I'm gonna talk about him with you guys today. Let me know what you guys think. If you know, how does he rate to some of the other players that we have been linked to? So let me get some of his information up. What kind of a player is he? I've got a few of this stuff on here. Which one is it? Is it this one? Get a little bit of profile on him. Where is it? Here we are. Yes. Okay, so I'm going to make sure I share this part. This is from Breaking the Lines, and we'll talk about it. Let me make sure I find it. I've got a lot of tabs open. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of Nicholas Kuhn before. Plays for Celtic. Has been there for the last nearly a year now, as well. So let me get this. Breaking the Lines, scouting. Where are you from? Struggling Start. Is it this one? Yes. Right. So, and then we'll go to transfermarket.com, get a little bit more details on him. So, Kuhn's profile and skill set. So, this is from Breaking the Lines. This is, I think, not too long ago. I forgot when it was published. It was this year, definitely. November 2024. Yeah, so like 2-3 months ago. So, it's pretty up to date as well. Plays for Celtic. He's 25 years old. He came from Rapid Vienna for £3 million in January last year. Had a bit of a rough start because of illness, but then after coming back from illness, has had a pre-season and has just started like a house on fire. So Kuhn's profile and skill set, he plays the right winger, which is exactly what we're looking for. Is highly comfortable with the ball at his feet. Yes, he's got really good dribbling skills as well. Very creative as well. Shots on target. And there's a lot of parts of this game that I think I like, and I think why Howe and Paul Mitchell are looking at him, whether receiving the passes in tight spaces or during high speed transitions. So when they're talking about receiving the ball in tight spaces, one of the things that Newcastle United are Eddie Howe and Paul Mitchell are anticipating is that why it's important for them to find a right winger that can receive the ball in tight spaces, that they anticipate that, especially going into next year, a lot of teams are going to be playing in a low block against Newcastle United, and it's best to get a player who is able to get the ball under control whilst under pressure in tight spaces and can make things happen, create, shoot, all these other things that Mr. Kuhn has the ability to do. But also, it mentions obviously during high-speed transitions, they anticipate, as what Newcastle's real, big strength is, the counter press, the counter attack, hitting teams in the transition, which is something that Man City are going to be very, very afraid of tomorrow. Not tomorrow, on Saturday when we play them. If you've got Isak, Murphy, and Gordon running at you, it is very, very scary stuff. And Mr. Kuhn is very, very quick himself. His control enables him to maintain possession and navigate challenges from defenders. He's very good at dribbling. I'm really happy about this aspect, because this is something that I've really wanted in the right wingers that we whatever right winger we bring in. Is partly why, for instance, I prefer a Bakayoko who's very good at dribbling as well, or Madueke in comparison to an Mbeumo. And I know that people love Mbeumo. I think he's really, really good. I'm just not that convinced that he's that good at dribbling. He's necessarily, I'm not going to say the tight spaces part. I just haven't seen it enough, because Brentford is such a transition-based side. Okay. So one of Kuhn's standout traits is his ability to dribble past opponents. Great. His agility and quick footwork make him natural in 1v1 situations. So if you're trying to get on one up on a defender, it's a low block, you need to make things happen, he's the guy to call. He demonstrates solid short and medium range passing, so we need him to be creative. We need to be able to have someone that can also recycle the ball as well. Facilitating quick give and goes in build-up play. Those 1-2s with an Isak, with a Gordon, with a Bruno as well. Him having understanding and helping us to break teams down is going to be is very important for us to have. He has the vision to pick out incisive through balls. Isak will love this guy. If anybody, we all watch Isak play the number of times. We've got better at this, especially with Bruno in an advanced position. Isak making those runs, and sometimes we've been hesitating to, and he's just looking for that through ball, for that through pass. and something's not given to him. And Newcastle are, we're one of those teams that really are good, pretty decent with through passes. But I think we can really step it up with that. And it looks like Mr. Nicholas Kuhn could provide that. He had through balls, particularly in the final third, excellent, which is where we need it to happen. Helping to create goal scoring opportunities, yes, please, for the likes of Deza Maeda and Kyogo Furushi. His passing when cutting inside, and this is the part that I really, really, really like. I like because Magnus Akliush, we talked about before, who plays on the right wing and number 10. This is why I like, for instance, a Magnus Akliush in comparison to who was it? The one I was comparing him to before. There was a player that we were talking about. I forgot his name. So, but this is I like this element. So he's cutting inside from the wide positions, and we're going to look at the highlights, kind of so you can see it. Position often leads to key Celtic attack. So he's an inside forward, a right wing forward. So he likes to come in from the wide and dribble past either inside the box or just on the outside of the box, drawing defenders towards him through his dribbling skills, and that opens up situations where he can either pass the ball or shoot himself. I don't know if you guys remember when we played Wolves, when it was, who was it that cut in? It was a throw on to Bruno Gomes, and Bruno Gomes went on the inside, went a couple past maybe one person, maybe two, and it left Isak open, who's really good in those kind of creating that space, and passed the ball and to Isak, and Isak just made a really simple finish. It's those kind of situations that I think Eddie Howe wants his right winger to be able to create. Gordon is really, really good at those situations. Kuhn's finishing has significantly improved over the last few months, which is good for us. We'll look at his goal scoring record, highlighting a notable shift in his game. With 3 goals in the last 5 games, that was obviously as of November 2024. That's improved as well. With 3 goals in the last 5 games of the season, Kuhn has become a constant goal threat. His increased composure in front of goal and improved decision-making have made him more clinical when chances arise. Hence why Newcastle United scouts have been looking at him of recent. So what is his situation? Let's get a little bit more data on him as well, and make sure you guys can see that. Yes, you can. I'll zoom in a little bit more because it looks very. Let's look on transfermarket.com. I want to be able to see a little bit of his history, get a little bit of his oh, so that's Matt O'Reilly. Let me get Mr. Nicholas Kuhn. Yeah, so let me share this. Let me share this tab instead. Can you guys see that? Yes, you can. Let me zoom in. Nicholas Kuhn, Celtic. So he's 25 years old. Let's see what his contract situation is. Let's get a little bit of background on him. So he's 25 years old. His birthday is on January the 1st. That's easy to remember. So he's just turned 25. Fair play to him. So obviously, right winger, his agent is CN Sports. He's German citizenship, so he's a German player. Previously played for he played at all levels for German up to under 21s, I think, as well. So he's got a good pedigree. And German senior team has obviously got Musiala, got Witz. Kuhn's just not at that level just yet. But maybe with Newcastle, things might change for him. So 25 years old. His height is 1.74 meters. So I think it's about 5'10", maybe. A little bit shorter than I would have liked, but that's okay. He can also play central and on the left side as well, although his right side obviously is his main position. His contract with Celtic runs out in 2029. Transfer market value him at 10 million. He's not going to be 10 million. The transfer market are pretty conservative with their estimates. Interestingly, though, Celtic articles and journals have valued him at 20 million. And I've seen a few radio interviews where you've got people valuing him at 30 million. But the Celtic have said this. The one that I read, I think, was Celtic newspaper, where they've said you would need 20 million pounds minimum to get him out. What Celtic would prefer is the same price that Brighton paid for Matt O'Reilly, who also played for Celtic with Nicholas. But Matt O'Reilly came to Brighton for around 25 million, I think it was. Let me see Matt O'Reilly's stats. Matt O'Reilly came, who's 24 years old. He came to Brighton for 29.5 million euros, which works out to about 25 million pounds, which already indicates to me why Newcastle are looking at Nicholas Kuhn. It's pretty low risk, you know. If it doesn't work out, it's not going to hit the PSR too hard. It's in terms of that, and you can sell him on if he's 60 million, 70 million pound for a right winger, which we would love to have. The consequences in terms of PSR and everything else would be a lot more. They don't want to think about PSR. You want to be thinking about quality. So we're going to talk about his quality. Obviously, we talked about his profile. Is he any good? I think he might be. I'm just checking up what his wages are. I can't find his wages on here just yet. How much is he earning a week at the moment? I tried to look on FB Ref. Let me see if I can find it. I would imagine, before I see it, I would imagine he's on about 20k, 20 to 30k. So it'll be no problem to just double it for Newcastle United. Again, fits in with what I think Newcastle would look to pay new players for. They're trying to keep, in terms of trying to keep themselves within PSR and kind of any other new things that are going to come in terms of like financial constraints. So how much is he earning? What's his cap? Oh, well, it depends what site you go on. Someone's got him on at 12 grand. 12 grand or 9 grand per week. Wow. So his football fan cast have got him at, so anywhere between 9 to 12 grand by the looks of it. So that's very interesting. That is very, very interesting. It's even lower than what I thought it was. So you can see why Newcastle are so interested in him, partly because of the price, yes. But is he any good? Let's have a little look through his a little bit into his background. Let me see what you guys are saying in the comments, what you guys are thinking so far. Aaron Kane, I like the idea of I like the idea of signing someone like Kuhn for 20 million. It feels like a low risk signing. It feels like a Brighton signing. It is a low risk signing, Aaron. My only issue is the quality of the Scottish League. That is my issue too. Would prefer someone else over Bakayoko. Well, that's the interesting part, Aaron. And this is a question for the other folks, because the Eredivisie, I don't know how Opta Stats are ranking the leagues at the moment, but I know the Eredivisie, where Bakayoko plays, isn't very high in the power rankings at the moment. I don't know which league is higher, the Scottish League or the Eredivisie. But it's interesting, very, very actually well caught there, because if you look at Bakayoko and I should have actually did the comparison. And I might do it for a next show. I can't remember what Bakayoko's current wages. It can't be that high. Let me see what Bakayoko's wages. Both come from leagues that aren't necessarily rated as very good leagues in terms of, not awful, obviously, but it's not the Premier League, it's not the La Liga, essentially. But both play in the Champions League, and I think Mr. Nicholas Kuhn has scored in the Champions League recently as well, and so they've had that experience, and both really are shining lights in their leagues. I think Nicholas Kuhn is seen as is seen as the top right winger in Scotland at the moment. Someone might say, well, that's not hard to do, but at least he's doing it, isn't it? At least Newcastle aren't looking at the second or the third best right winger in Scotland. They're looking at the best right winger in Scotland as well. and very similar to Johan Bakayoko. He's one of the leading, if not the leading right winger in Holland as well in the Eredivisie. At least they're not looking for the third or fourth. They're looking for the number one as well. The transfer fee seems a little bit higher, but he is 21, 22 years old, and there might be a more potential for him. What's the wages for Bakayoko? Again, his one is seen as one looks, and it depends on what site you go on. He's on 13,000 euros per week. So it's very interesting, Aaron. Both of them if I trust the sources, are on between 10 to 15 grand a week type of salaries. Bakayoko is rumored to be around 33 million pounds. Nicholas Kuhn is valued around 20 to 25 million pounds in transfer fees. So it's interesting, like they seem to both be fairly low risk signings, isn't it? And both are really, really good in their divisions. I wonder who Newcastle go for. Let me make sure you guys can see this. Yeah, you can. So let me zoom in again. So I'm going to keep it in mind because it seems like I feel like these are like, because of the similarities between them. Actually, they're similar height, I think, as well. I should have actually done a comparison, but okay. So obviously, right winger, a left-footed, which is exactly what Newcastle are looking for. I'm going to show a little bit of highlights on him as well in a moment. So yeah, he's mainly played out of Germany. Can you guys see that? Let me make sure you guys can see that. Yeah, so he's mainly played out of Germany, St. Pauli, down to Hanover, to RB Leipzig, who under 17s, under 19s. Then he went on to play for the Ajax under 21s as well. I wonder if whilst at Eredivisie, he met Bakayoko there. Before going back to FC Bayern 2, then going back to Ajax and Bayern 2 again. So he kind of really, really floating about before he kind of found his feet at Rapid Vienna in Austria, and then was later picked up by Celtic for 3.5 million euros, about 3 million pounds. So Celtic could be getting a really good fee for him if they get anything between 20 to 25 million for him. And in terms of I talked about his national team career. He's played for the Germans for Germany from the under 15s all the way up to the under 20s, and that's where it's stopped for him. So I wonder if we're kind of beginning to find his level a little bit there as well. I don't know if that, but again, German National League, Musiala, Florian Wirtz, I mentioned them earlier. If he was Florian Wirtz, we're talking about 60, 70, 80 million pounds, aren't we? So that is interesting. Let me see his data on his scoring at the moment. Let me get full details here. Where he's at in terms of his goals and assists and everything else before we do a little bit of his highlights. So yeah, he's for Celtic. Obviously, he's played mainly on the right side. Let me get not just 24-25 season stuff. Let me get his full overall balance here, so we get a better take. So throughout his career, he's played on the right, he's played on the left, and centre forward. He's played roughly 400 games, 146 games on the right wing. No, about 300 games, 27 games on the left wing. So not too many games on the left wing. 45 games as a centre forward. He is Lane as a right winger. He's played 146 games, scored 34 goals, 29 assists for all the clubs he's played for. Centre forward, he's played 45 games, scored 29 goals and 8 assists, but that's like at different levels. Let me see what he's saying for what's his numbers looking like for Celtic at the moment. So 24. Where are we? Celtic, Premier League, is it? Premiership. No, back up a little bit. How's it looking for 24 season, then 24-25, we'll look on that. So that's Bundesliga one, 24-25, where he's done really well. Yeah, so 20 games in the league, 10 goals, 6 assists, pretty good. 1,200 minutes played. UEFA Champions League, 9 games, 2 goals, 1 assist. So we've got good experience there. League Cups, 4 games, 5 goals, 4 assists again. And the Scottish Cup, he's played 2 games and has got 1 assist as well. So yeah, he's a creative player. Lots of assists, lots of dribbling ability, skills, passing. I think he has the overall package of what Newcastle are looking for, all wrapped up in one player. But as you said, Aaron, as you said, I think he plays for Scotland, just like Bakayoko plays for Eredivisie. So somebody's out there who needs to take a chance in them. And it's interesting that this is what Newcastle are looking for. And I think this is where I think we're seeing Paul Mitchell's influence, where we're looking a little bit abroad now, aren't we? Scotland, Holland, France, all those type of players. So we're finding players that are Eddie Howe type players, but in different leagues. And maybe this is where we're seeing the integration of ideas between Paul Mitchell and Eddie Howe. So let's have a little bit of a highlight reel of these guys once I get these adverts off of Nicholas Kuhn. And I'll show you what I mean about his ability to cut in as well, which I really, really like about him. Gosh, these adverts every minute, aren't they? Is he going to play adverts again? Yeah, you are going to play adverts again. Amazing. Amazing. All right, so let me share the screen with you. Can you guys see that? Yes, you can. All right, brilliant. So let me put that on. So best attributes, high pressing. Good that we need that. We like pressing wingers as well. Aerial duels is weakness. He is 5 foot. He looks like he's what 1 point. He's about 5'8". No, 5'9", 5'10", something like that. Oh, let me get myself on the screen so I can play the video on YouTube. Let me zoom it in. All right, brilliant. So let's see what he can do. And this is in the last couple months as well. So it's all pretty recent as well. It's going to show his goals that he scored against Leipzig earlier this year as well. Yeah, 24-25 season. Again, really good first touch there. You see him right there, good dribbling as well, taking the ball away. Look at that, close spaces, really good dribbling ability here. Over the player there. Decent first touch, looking up, always trying to get past on that left side again. Good strength. He's able to ride the challenges really well as well. Inside the box against the low block. And again, the eye for goal as well. Really good take there. And not all these goals are in Scotland. Some of these are in the Champions League as well. When they show the Leipzig game, I'll let you guys know. Oh, nice finish there with his left foot again. So you'll see him drifting from the right side onto the left. Good pace again. Takes him past the defender. I guess the whole time you're wondering is, what can he do this in the Premier League? Again, cutting onto his left, onto his right, then onto his left again. Really good first touch. And this is against Leipzig. So let me show you this. This is against Leipzig. This is in the Champions League. Just coming up there as well. And this is the part I'm talking about in terms of being able to cut in. So when talking about cutting in, this is the part that Eddie Howe really, really likes. Them driving into the box like this. So look how many defenders. He's already got one defender with him. All the focus is on them. He chooses to take the shot, and it ends up being a really good shot. But because he's got all these defenders drawing to him, he could have he's shot obviously, but he could have passed as well. And because he's drawing defenders towards him, he's leaving that space. And you can imagine Isak, Gordon, a couple of our number 8s in the box as well, him creating that space by him being able to drive in like that. It was a really well-placed shot as well. Bang. Lovely goal. So you want that again. Cuts in. Lovely goal. Onto his left. Really, really good. And he can use his right as well. But it's this ability to cut in that Eddie Howe really, really wants. Yeah, and he's finding his finishing ability as well. One-on-one the keeper, lovely chip, really, really good stuff. So again, this is him cutting in. One player, two play with him, three play with him, four, five, and cuts in again. That's exactly what Eddie Howe, not necessarily go past six players every time. He's not necessarily looking for that, but he's looking for that ability to be able to cut in. It's what Eddie Howe is looking again, cuts in, drawing defenders towards him again. 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, that's the part that he wants, and that's how he wants to be able to cut into spaces. And this is him driving into the central areas. Lovely through ball, lovely through ball. Isak would love that all day long. So that's Nicholas Kuhn. Let me know what you guys think. I've got to keep. I'm going to bookmark it. Put Mr. Nicholas Kuhn and Johan Bakayoko, and I think in the next couple of shows or so, I'm gonna do a little bit. I'm gonna keep tabs on them. So far, I've been watching a lot of Magnus Akliouche from Monaco. I watched him again. I think it was yesterday. I've watched him maybe 6, 7, 8 times this season. I've watched a lot of Magnus Akliouche. I've watched a few games of Hakan Haraldsson from Lille. Jonathan David, I've stopped on Jonathan David once I heard Barcelona's are interested in him. Who's the other guy? Now I'm going to be keeping tags on Mr. Nicholas Kuhn and Mr. Johan Bakayoko. Got a lot of similarities there between them two. Both are quite short. Both are from leagues that aren't necessarily rated, but they're very much the pinnacle in their positions for those leagues. I like the look of him. There's a real package. The package is what I'm looking for in a right winger anyway. Ability to dribble, ability to take on, ability to keep your head up and make through passes, crosses as well. Ability to cut in. With his dribbling ability, he's able to slow down the play as well and retain possession, which I think is very, very important for Newcastle's development. So, yeah, I think there's a lot in there for us to look at. Mighty Mag. So let me know what you guys think. I'm going to keep tabs out on him. I'm going to try and catch some Celtic games now on top of the Lille and the Monaco games and the PSV. I need to see a little bit more of Bakayoko. I've seen 2 maximum games of Bakayoko. So I need to see a bit more of him. Mighty Mag, good to see you, sir. Good evening to you. Evening, Phil. Hope you're well. And smash the like, guys. Yes, please do smash the like, folks. As always, really appreciate that. Helps with the algorithms and all that jazz. It'd be really good to have. Aaron Kane, Bakayoko for me feels like an Isak signing. Ooh, before he exploded. Okay. Oh, okay. I love that because of his attributes and his age. Yeah. And the fact that he's 22 now, isn't he? 21, 22. And the fact that he's got more of a European pedigree, true, very true. See what he done to Liverpool. And I saw his game against PSG. We had a really, really good game against PSG. And the fact that he's got more of a European pedigree, that's why I lean towards him, but we'll take Kuhn. And then with the wages they're on and the prices that are given for them, we can probably take both of them. We won't do that, but it won't be. It'll be something if we did that. But it's eerily similar. Some of their attributes and the prices and the wages, they're on really low wages, these guys. Or compared to what we're paying, our average wage is 90K. These two are on between 10 to 15K. That's very doable for Newcastle United. Sophie B, good to see you. Hope you are well. He couldn't do that in the Premiership. Well, that's a really good question. Much lower standards in the Scottish League. I take that, but how many players have we said that about? And I think you've got to start from somewhere. Erling Haaland came from the Bundesliga, and the way he smashed them, people said, "Well, it's the Bundesliga." It turns out the Bundesliga is pretty decent. There's so many players. Ronaldo came from the Portuguese league. Like so many players come from lower leagues and have that. And essentially, we're taking risks on all of them. Robertson, who plays for Liverpool, came from a relegated Hull City side, and look where that came. What happened there? all these players have come from lower leagues. No one really starts at the top. I think the key is, and I take your point, the key is being able to find, to see, to you almost have to kind of, that's why they're sending out the scouts out there. Okay, we know X and Y player isn't in the greatest league, but can we see those attributes in other areas? So they're looking at players not just that are playing in lower leagues, but are playing in Champions League. So Newcastle scouts were there when Nicholas Kuhn was playing RB Leipzig. They were there when, who did Celtic play yesterday? Was it Bayern Munich? So, okay, that's going to be a game to watch, isn't it? To see how he responds against tougher opposition. I saw briefly some of his stats, wasn't looking overly good. So they'll take that into account. Bakayoko, though, shined against Liverpool. So they're going to be looking at all of that. If you're playing Liverpool, if you're playing Bayern Munich, and you're playing well and you're putting in good performances, I think that gives you a good idea maybe of what could be achieved. But it's a risk. It's a risk. You're right. It's definitely a risk because those leagues aren't the same. It's less of a risk if you, for instance, bring in a Tyler Dibbling or a Noni Madueke from Chelsea, because you can see what they're doing in the Premier League. It's a lot more transferable. But again, this is where I think the Paul Mitchell influence is coming in this, and he's saying to Eddie, look, there's other players, there's other gems. And Paul Mitchell's the one, remember, he's got that track record. If you guys know him, he's got an exceptional track record of bringing in players from different leagues and making them work. He did it with he tried to do it with Mane, but Levy wouldn't see him. And then he went to Liverpool and look what happened there. He did it with Son, who plays for Tottenham. That incredible Tottenham team that was, going to Champions Leagues regularly, was pretty much built by Paul Mitchell. The two defenders, Toby Alderweireld and Dele Alli, when he burst into the scene. That's all Paul Mitchell. Matthias Cunha, Paul Mitchell. Konate, discovered by Paul Mitchell when he was 18 years old. So if Paul Mitchell is directing things and saying, "Hey, have a look at Nicholas Kuhn in the Scottish League. Have a look at Bakayoko in Eredivisie," I'm willing to give it a shot. I'm willing to kind of say, yeah, you got a track record in doing this. So, but at the same time, the risk is there. You guys are coming from lower leagues. What happens when they go to the Premier League? Hence the price. 20-25 million for Nicholas Kuhn, 33 million for Bakayoko, both on wages between 10 to 15k. We'll probably double that and they'll be happy with it. It's very, very low risk. Both are fairly young, especially Bakayoko, who's 21, 22 years old. So there's that risk factor. If they're both for 70, 80 million, coming from Scotland, coming from Holland, coming from Portuguese leagues or whatnot, then I can understand the hesitation. So, yeah, that's my thoughts there. Sophie, very well, Philip, and yourself. Sorry being so busy with work, been watching the replays. Hope you've been enjoying the show, Sophie, as well. Good to have you on live as well. Oh, what did we do against them? Is that to somebody else? What did he do against them? Is that for Nicholas Cage? Not Nicholas Cage. I was going to call him Nicholas Cage. Nicholas Kuhn. I didn't see the game. After maybe if I can get the replay or the full highlights, I'll be able to see. I'll be able to say, I think Madio. So you don't rate Madueke. I like Madueke, but I understand where you're coming from. Aaron Kempf, the beauty of signing Kuhn, Eddie will bet him exactly because you've got Jacob Murphy, and that's the whole idea of keeping players like Callum Wilson, Jacob Murphy, Dubravkas, Popes, is that you can buy these players, these kind of players we're taking the risk on, and like you said, bed them in slowly. We did it with Lewis Hall, yes, we did, and Murphy will likely be the first choice. Yes, absolutely, he will be. Until then, I trust the club, their talent ideas. It is. Even the players that we've missed out on. João Pedro was supposed to get him. Obviously, we've got Isak instead. Look what João Pedro's doing. Hugo Ekitike, look what he's doing. These players that we've been looking at, we've got a pretty good talent idea between Paul Mitchell, Steve Nixon, Eddie Howe, and the guys there. So, there's something to take there. Sophie B, Aaron, I agree for the price. It's worth the risk, but I would rather pay an extra 10 million and get Bakayoko. Oh, so you rate Bakayoko? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can see that. Even if it does, he might even cost him 10 million. You never know. What did he do against Leipzig, etc.? I meant, so he scored 2 goals against Leipzig. I actually just showed the highlights as well. So if you do go back on the show, Sophie, about 10, 15 minutes, I'll put it on the timestamps anyway. He scored 2 goals. One of them, the first goal, was an absolute beauty as well. So he tore them apart, basically, Sophie. All right. So that's Nicholas Kuhn. I'm going to be looking out for him. I'm liking, regardless, I'm liking what Newcastle are doing, the players they're looking for, Bakayoko, Nicholas Kuhn, that they're looking further afield as well. So I'm liking what they're doing. I'm liking what they are doing. All right, guys, match preview. Newcastle United, Man City. What is your thoughts on this game? As always, folks, I like to have a look at our opponents first and do a little bit of a armchair scout mission on them. But what's you guys' initial thoughts? Man City at the Etihad, 6-pointer. It's a 6-pointer game for us. Let me make sure you guys can see that. Yes, you can. What is everybody saying? Right, so let's have a quick look at the table. I need to get a drink of water. So Man City are 5th, we're 6th. I think we're both on the same points. Yes, we are. Look at that. We're exactly the same goal difference as well. What an interesting season. Newcastle are on the up. Man City, at least this year, are on the down, and we seem to be meeting somewhere in the middle. Man City have so far scored 48 goals and conceded 35. We scored slightly less goals, 42, but we conceded less goals, 29. Like, it's insane. Like, the parallels are crazy, isn't it? Their last 5 games, they won 3 and they lost 1. Obviously, the one against this is in the Premier League. Obviously, we've seen, if you guys saw the Champions League, they also lost in the Champions League to Real Madrid, 3-2. A very interesting game. But they lost 5-1 to Arsenal in their last game at the Etihad as well. Though before that, they beat Chelsea 3-1. They beat Ipswich Town 2-0. They drew with Brentford 2-2, and after being 2-0 up in that game, and they beat West Ham 4-1. Us, in our last 5 games, we lost to... No. Yeah, in our last 5 games, we lost to Fulham at home, annoyingly. Was that our last game at home? Was that our last game in the Premier League? I must have forgotten because we beat Arsenal when we beat... yeah, that was our last game. We lost 2-1 to Fulham at home. So we lost 2, and we lost obviously to Bournemouth as well. Annoying. All the memories are coming back now. But obviously, we also beat Southampton in that time. We beat Wolves, and we beat Tottenham. So there's so many similarities if you just look at the table between us as well. And it's like it's like a sliding doors moment. It could be a sliding doors moment. I mean, this game is essentially going to define who goes 3 points. I think there will be a winner. I don't think there'll be a draw. I won't tell my predictions just yet. Who is going to go 3 points ahead and who's going to go 3 points behind, essentially, and maybe even trying to stay in the top 6 conversation. So, Man City, I'm going to do a quick overview of their current stats this season to see their strengths and their weaknesses. We know there's been a fall off. We know there's been a decline. And as a result of that, there's been a lot of movement in the market from them. Though a lot of their, in my opinion, a lot of their buys, a lot of their transfer business are signings for the future, which includes Kusanov, a player that Newcastle, again, with and Jumabar, players that Newcastle were really, really trying to get, but couldn't, because Man City is Man City. are a more attractive proposition for players, and they pay more money essentially as well. So, but let's see where they're at. They've got an overall FOTMOB rating of 7, so they're third in the league. So even though they're fifth, they've got an overall FOTMOB rating. Obviously, they've taken all the metrics into that: passing, conceding, shooting. Shooting, all these other stats, and according to their metrics, despite the fall off, they're still third in the league. Goals per match, they're third in the league for that as well. So they're scoring a lot, still scoring a few goals as well. We've seen that 48 goals this season so far. Really good return. But at the same time, they're conceding a lot of goals. Man City are conceding. They're 11th. They're a mid-table team when it comes to conceding goals, Man United. Man City. So I see a lot of opportunities there for us. Average possession, the number 1 in the league. I think that's part of their problem, really, is having possession. They need to. They're just getting caught in transition quite a bit, and that's hurting them. They're 9th for clean sheets. We've got more clean sheets than them as well. Expected goals, though, they're 4th in the league for that. Again, so we know they're an attacking threat with Erling Haaland, Savinho. Now they've got Mamouche as well. They're doing a lot more better. Shots per target, 3rd in the league. Sharpshooters, we've got to defend well against them. They're creating big chances, 4th in the league as well. So their attacking side is really, really good. Big chances missed, they're 6th in the league for that. So that not too bad. Accurate passes, expect them to be number 1 for that as well. Accurate long balls, though, they're 13th. They're not the best, and they're trying to be a lot more direct in their play as well. But they're not as good as, for instance, they're not even as good as Everton or West Ham. Bournemouth, for instance, tore us apart with those long balls. That's because they keep the possession. They're different. They're having to change their style of play. Man City, Pep Guardiola talked about it when he said, "Look, football's is the football that is the way forward now. Is the football that Newcastle play, Liverpool play, Brighton play. It's not about this positional play that he's talking about no more. He's having to change his team. I'm hoping that we can catch them whilst they're in that transition. Accurate crosses, they're 8th in the league. They're 15th for penalties awarded, which is interesting to me because are teams just finding it easy to defend against them, or are they not getting the rub of the green? Bournemouth have got 7 penalties. I mean, why are Man City so much less? Touches in the opposition box, they always show their dominance. Number 1 in the league for touches in the opposition box. So they're still creating lots of chances. They're still a very, very potent attacking force. It's the defensive part that is letting them down. And look at the defensive part. Look at this. XG conceded, so chances conceded. They're a mid-table team. They're 10th in the league for that. They're towards the last point for interceptions. Have you guys ever seen Man City this slow for interceptions? Essentially being able to cut out a pass. That's relegation team. So if you're not going to cut out a pass from Bruno, a direct pass from Bruno to Gordon, where he's in one-on-one with Rico Lewis, you're gonna be in absolute trouble. If that's the case, and this is where their weaknesses are. They're scoring goals, but then they're defending, their pressing is absolutely in the look. Their successful tackles per match, 20th. They're 20th for successful tackles. Now, part of that is because they keep so much possession, fair play. But I've seen stats where that show that they're pressing, especially off the ball, is like mid-table to lower table, and that was their key strength before. Then lowest for clearance per match, possessions won in the final third per match. They're 8th. Man City are 8th. Man City are 8th and winning the ball in the final third. They've dropped off a lot, and look, we've got when we've got our ball playing, centre backs playing. I'll show you guys my lineup in a moment. If we can play out the back, it's going to hurt them as well. saves per match. They're 16th. So their goalkeeper has to probably makes about 2 to 3 saves per match as well. So I think that's not too bad. That part is not too bad. So yeah, that's their overall stats. What are you guys thinking so far? I'm going to go on whoscored.com because you guys know what I like to do. Before I do that, I'm going to read your comments, see if you guys got any comments for me. Put it here. All right, so let me see. What are you guys thinking about this game? What's your thoughts so far? Seeing this overall stats for there's tons of here. Aaron Kane for Greek completely Sophie would prefer Bakayoko to. Yeah, I've got 2 Bakayoko fans here. Sophie B, I think we need to use. Sorry there. I think we need to use the blueprint to beat Man City, sit back, hit them on the counter with the pace we have. And yeah, that's in essence, I think we'll be seeing. Would you say, Sophie, like a similar game that we played against Arsenal? I think that would work an absolute treat. Sophie B, yeah, Fulham were all over us, but I think we had one eye on the Arsenal game at the time. If that's true, Sophie, I'll be very annoyed and very angry because I understand it. And I suspect that might be that there's a lot of truth in that. I just think it will be a lesson learned for us because I want this team to be performing on all fronts, leagues, cups, as consistently as possible. Hopefully they will have one eye on the Bernabeu. That's the other thing as well. They're still smarting from the loss they had, and they'll be also thinking about we've got to go to the Bernabeu after playing Newcastle. Mighty Mag, Arsenal channels convinced they're getting Isak and Tonali completely deluded. Yeah, yeah, I understand, and I know it's annoying as well. Maybe try to. I try to think. I remember the days when nobody was talking about our players. Nobody was talking about Matt Ritchie. So God bless him. But yeah, I think we're heading in the right direction. We've got a great team. Mighty Mag, Sophie B's laughing with you there. Cringy stuff there. Cringy stuff. Aaron Kane, Arsenal fans should be more worried about Saka to Newcastle. Oh, that would be crazy. That will set the world on fire. That would. So if you be honestly, Arsenal fans are ridiculous. To be honest, we are better than them. They know it. I watch a lot of things. They are deluded, but Isak is not going there. Why would he? And Tonali is even funnier. Yeah. Saka's dad is a Toon fan. He is. All right. So Aaron Kane there. Gonna be interesting to see who starts at the back. Hence, we're gonna get to that in a moment. Good segue there. Botman and Burn injury doubts. I personally, and I hope, and maybe this is just me, I'm hoping that Eddie Howe's playing a bit of I'm hoping it's a bit of cloak and daggers there. Gonna be interesting how Eddie sets us up. Yes, exactly. Let me know how you think Eddie should set us up. Not so much Sophie B. Not so much Arsenal, to be honest. Just not full on go at them. But I agree. If that is the mentality about the Fulham things. Oh, okay, yeah, exactly. Right. So you guys know I like to go and use the whoscored.com stats because what it allows me to do is match the teams up. But match the teams up in a way where I'm using this, and these are the per game stats. These are the per game stats, looking at their offensive and defensive stats, as well as passing stats, scoring and conceding. But we're using the metrics. So I'm going to be using the stats from Man City's as the home game, from their home games, and I'm going to be using the stats for Newcastle from their away games because I think that gives us a little bit more accuracy about what we're likely to expect in these games. So per game, both teams score. Man City score about 2 goals at home, typically. Newcastle score about 2 games away. typically as well. So Newcastle have been doing really well away as well. So by all accounts, it's looking like it's going to be a goal fest. Obviously, Man City typically get 19 shots per game. At home, Newcastle get about 13. Playing teams away, corners are not too far apart. Fouls as well. Aerial do success. We're very close to each other as well. Our possession's pretty good away as well. 53%. Man City 61%. But I don't think the possession game is what Eddie Howe is going to be trying to do in this game necessarily. Obviously, Man City will dominate the pass success percentages as well, and they typically play pretty about players get up to about 6.8 ratings as well, whereas we get 6.7. So it's interesting that even though we're not always at our, I think we're playing well, but not super well away, but we're still doing pretty well from a goals perspective. So that's pretty encouraging to see. That's the kind of summary. The offensive stats, home and away, did we use that? Yeah, we've got those as well. So we've got the summary there. So, okay. Goal types, home, away for us, scored. Right. So they've scored, Man City have scored about 24 goals at home this season. Newcastle have scored 22 goals away. That's good. That's really, really good. Open play 18 each, very close. 3 of them set pieces for Man City, 1, and the rest of them 1-1-1. So it's going to be a very close game. I think there's going to be a lot of goals in it for both teams. So how do Man City concede their goals at home, and how do we concede ours? Man City have conceded 15 goals at home. We've conceded 15 goals away. The stats on this are very, very close. 11 of those goals were from open play for us, 10 for Man City, 2 of them from set pieces for us, 1 for Man City. 3 of them were from counter-attack. So you can see Man City's weakness. 2 of them was for us as well. We've got similar issues as well. I think we're both going to try and non-ball it against each other. The difference for Man City is they're playing at home, and the emphasis is going to be on them to attack us. Did I miss anything? No. So, but again, the metrics for both teams are very, very close. Shots per game, they get about, is this home? Yeah, on away. Shots per game, 8.7. They get about, what is this about though? I won't say it because I'm not too sure what those stats mean. But in terms of attacking, you can expect a balanced attack from them. Left, right, through the center as well. They got Savino on the left. On the right, they'll have Grealish, not on the right. Well, it'll be either Savino or Doku. And on the right, they're going to have to change in there as well. It might be Foden, for instance. Mamouche and Haaland through the middle. So a lot to manage for us there. We're pretty balanced as well. Right side and left side. And Murphy, has been doing really well for us. Or Gordon on the left side. Isak through the middle. Again, very, very interesting stuff as well. So I think it's going to be a close game. I think there's going to be a lot of goals in this as well. WhoScored.com have also, so WhoScored.com have given their own little preview, and they think that this is from the Arsenal game. These are the Arsenal game. I did go to the Arsenal game because I wanted to see. I think I kind of so WhoScored.com, they're anticipating that obviously Man City will play in a 4-2-3-1. We're playing a 4-3-3. Let me make sure you guys can see this. Yeah, you can. Right. So they think obviously Haaland will start with Mamouche behind. Mamouche was rested for the original Madrid game, so I won't be surprised to see Mamouche play as a number 10 for them. He makes a lot of he makes runs beyond the lines, and I think that's what they're going to try and do. Get Mamouche maybe to target Shaw, for instance, or Burn, and try and essentially kind of hit them for pace, including Haaland as well. So they're going to try and catch us on the counter attack. Foden, so they put Foden to play on the left side. Grealish obviously is injured for them. Savino will go on the right. and this is where the weakness is, Kovacic and Silva as their DMs. Do they have the athleticism to deal with a Bruno Gomes, Tonali and Willock? That's I don't think so. But the interesting, I don't know if you guys saw the Real Madrid game. It was Stones who played in the DM role for them, and he did really, really well for them. So I wonder if they do that. But the thing is, the problem for them is Ake went off injured, so Stones has to slide into the centre back role with Diaz, and possibly Lewis plays on the right and Guardiola on the left. And we've got to watch out for Guardiola because he's been scoring a lot of goals, roaming, going to the from that left side as well. He scored against us, if you guys remember, at St. James's Park as well. So there's a few dangers for us to see there. But I don't think we will play. Well, I think we will play similar to what we done against Arsenal. Before I do that, oh gosh, my mic is falling off. Let me see what your comments are, but I don't think you. So I think I'm probably going to be wrong, but I think maybe Willock might play. But I wonder if we go back to doing that 5-4-1, that sort of formation. So let's see. But I'm going to go through it. Before I do that, let me see what you guys are saying in the comments. So you guys are giving your starting lineups. In fact, So Sophie thinks we're going to play Botman and Shaw. I think we might play 3 at the back like we did against Arsenal, because I think that worked really, really well. Mighty Mag, would you guys be happy with a point on Saturday? Hoping Forest and Chelsea get a thumping would be a massive boost for us. Typically, Mighty Mag, I hate to rely on other teams, so I just focus on Newcastle. I think we're capable of getting more than a point. I do. I think we can. Sophie B, to be honest, I think we beat them, and there is a blueprint. We must break the Etihad. We do. Sit back and counter with Gordon and Isak, says Catalan. Good to see you, Catalan. I don't know if it's your first time to the show, but you're very, very welcome. Sophie B, I didn't realize we are this close to Man City and they're having a bad season. Yeah, I mean, you know what? Like I said, we're on the rise. They've had a decline. They've hit some incredible heights. 4 Premier Leagues in a row, never been seen before. So, it's an interesting season, crazy season. Mighty Mag, Forest away to Fulham and Chelsea away to Brighton. Both difficult games. They are big games. But I won't be surprised to see Forest win, honestly. That's to Sophie. Sophie B, it's free. I can't believe we got a 3 p.m. kickoff. I would have thought that's a Newcastle Man City. How that's not an 8 p.m. kickoff, I don't know, to be honest. Sophie B, it's 3 p.m. England don't have the rights for 3 p.m. games. That's why they are they're in the USA. That's the annoying part. As Aaron Kane, as brilliant as Ben has been this season, I need Botman in this team now. Well, let's get on to it. So I think we will. It will look like a 5-4-1, which it looked against Arsenal. I think we play 3 at the back. And I've got my starting lineup is Isak at the front, from left to right in terms of the midfield, Gordon, Tonali, Bruno, and Murphy, and Hall, Byrne, Botman, Shaw, Trippier, and Dubravka. I've kept Man City's team the same as what was predicted by WhoScored.com. If Ake was fit, I would have put Stones in the midfield. Like I said, he had a good game for Man City in their midfield. So part of the reason why I think we're playing the fight with 3 at the back is and I think Eddie Howe will change this in the game, mid game, maybe even as well as to our typical 4-3-3 shape. Is I think I don't know if you guys watched the Man City game. Madrid played really, really narrow in the center areas like this. They kind of they took up kind of like a mid block. So let me see. They played really, really narrow, and they prevented Man City from obviously hitting those central areas, which worked for them. It forced Man City to have to go out wide in order to attack, rather than over the top where they can use the pace of, Haaland or anybody else to be hurt. And Man City's build-up took a little bit longer to do, to make as well. So I wonder essentially if Newcastle take up that kind of position, that kind of situation where they remain really tight. They take up a mid-block position. They remain really tight at the back. Haaland obviously will push up, but he will have very limited space. And then you can have a really like a Botman, either a Botman or a Burn, really marking Haaland one-on-one. Also, obviously, the other Man City players will be pushing up. Savino will be trying to roam, but again, they'll be getting less and less joy from the central areas, and you'll be forcing them to go out wide. Kovacic and Silva will try to take up these positions as well. They'll try to push up and push us back. But the problem, what this allows though, what this makes is Man City very, very vulnerable. So they'll do this where they have Stones and Diaz at the back. The two DMs push up like this against Tonali and Bruno. And then in one-on-one duels, I know who I fancy. Now, we kind of did something similar-ish, but a little bit different at St. James's Park. And it worked for a time. It was Grealish on this side instead of Foden against Trippier. And Trippier was doing really, really well. He made that one mistake, obviously, and Grealish was able to get by him. Foden doesn't really like to be out wide. He likes to be in the central areas. Hence why if we've crowded the central areas and it's harder for Man City to get through, we force them out wide. What we've got to watch out for, though, is Guardiola roaming these areas here, getting himself in one-on-one situations with Trippier. So it's important for Murphy to either follow the runs of Foden, or Guardiola will try go on the inside like this when he scored against us. Foden going out on the outside like that. So either Trippier will be following Foden, or Murphy dropping in like this to protect the back line and make sure we don't get too hurt. If we're able to manage those type of areas here, like on the left, and a similar situation here on the right, excuse me, Mamu should be trying to overload on Lewis Hall's side, Burn making sure that he's covering Hall, and Gordon, and if necessary, Savino will be trying to will be sticking out on the left here. Gordon has to try and follow these runs and make sure that we don't get overlapped on Hall doesn't get overlapped, for instance, or for instance, Hall is supported to come out and meet Savino, and you get Gordon dropping in like this. And if Lewis wants to jump in, you've got Gordon marking him here. The problem for Man City when these type of situations happen is they leave these spaces. They leave themselves vulnerable when we're talking about the counter-attacks. They leave spaces like this and spaces like this. And this is where they've been hurt. What would happen is, I was going to say central spaces as well, Stones and Diaz, because I fancy Isak in a one-on-one. If Isak can do Saliba and Gabriel, I think he can do Stones and Diaz. But focusing on the flanks, it's leaving these gaps. If these overloads, don't work, and overlaps, if Lewis tracks his market, tracks his man Savino, and there's a break in play, what you'll see is Gordon going into the spaces, Tonali, Isak, and it leaves Man City very, very vulnerable now because Diaz doesn't have the pace to keep up with Gordon. Bernardo Silva does not have the pace or the athleticism to keep up with Tonali. And Stones is not keeping up with Isak. He couldn't keep up with Jude Bellingham for that third goal, if you guys saw the third goal. And this is where they leave themselves very, very vulnerable, Man City. So that's why I think, and within all of that, because we make their attacks hopefully a little bit more predictable by having a third defender at the back, you allow a situation where it's just Botman can focus on Haaland. Haaland can't really, there isn't really much space for a ball over the top for Haaland. The Bafka come in to be the sweeper keeper. Shaw can come and support and cut out the passes, and Botman obviously will be focused on Haaland and just keeping up with him. That's all he has to do, which he generally can do quite well, I think. The key is then, if for Man City to be able to break our defense, they have to have these overloads, either on the right or on the left, how I showed. What it does, though, is leave them vulnerable in these sort of areas. And because Kovacic and Silva don't have the athleticism to keep up with, Silva doesn't, like I said, doesn't have the athleticism to keep up with Tonali. Even Bruno and Kovacic, you can imagine Bruno being able to, with his pressure resistance, once the ball breaks for him, maybe Murphy tracks Gvardiol, gets the pass back onto Bruno. It sets off Isak. Isak will hit these channels, for instance. Trippier will get on his bike. Murphy will get on his bike. Are Stones and Kovacic, do they have they don't have the pace, they don't have the athleticism to keep up with these guys. So if Newcastle are defensively sound and keep up a mid-block, watch for the overlaps, track their man, Murphy and Gvardiol, or Trippier and Foden. Likewise, Lewis Hall on the other side, and Gordon helping out against Rico Lewis. Rico Lewis is not going to keep up with Foden in the foot race. Rico Lewis is not going to keep, even if he hangs back, Rico Lewis, he's not going to keep up with Foden. He's not going to do well with Foden in a one-on-one situation. And that's where Man City are really, really vulnerable. And that's where I think Newcastle can hurt Man City, in my opinion. So that's why I would choose a 5-3-2 as well. And what worked really well for us in the Arsenal game, Newcastle got really comfortable in terms of just having Bruno, Murphy together like this, screening the back five like this and blocking the channels. And Isak and Gordon were in their favoured central areas like this, and they were hunting the ball down in this way. Bruno will at times come support. Even Shaw, I don't know if you guys remember, Shaw, because we've got the five at the back, had the option of, especially when Arsenal were playing out from the back, Shaw would be on, what's his name? Declan Rice. Shaw, don't be surprised if you see Shaw, if we do take up this formation, Shaw maybe coming up and when we're pressing up high, marking Kovacic, for instance, and adding that pressure. But otherwise, let me show you the final bits of what I mean, where Newcastle can be dangerous. So obviously, City are going to be playing that from out the back. If we keep a good 5-3-2, 5-4-1 or 5-3-2 formation, we would prevent them from hitting those balls over us, because they would have seen how Bournemouth played. They would have seen how what's his name played, Fulham played, how they hurt us in the transitions as well. And they'll be trying to do that with Mamouche. They'll be trying to do that with Haaland. We know that because they did that against what's their name, against Chelsea, and hurt them really bad. I think if we play it smart, we can wear them down. I actually think we can wear down this Man City team. So, right, when we played in that 5-3-2 formation, you had Isak and Gordon pushing up like this. At times, you'd have Trippier having the option of doing this. So, you'd have, let me get these guys up. Murphy, Shaw, Botman, Burn, a little bit here. So you'd have these type of situations forming depending on what side. So if the ball is played out from Kovacic shouldn't be there. Kovacic should be here. Guardiola should be there. Ball, any of the players can play out the back. They're really good on the ball. Goes out to Guardiola. You'd have Isak blocking the pass to Stones, to Nali pressing up high, for instance, and blocking the pass to Kovacic, and depending where Foden is, Trippier on Foden. Now the other option is obviously to try and get this ball over the top to Haaland, and this is where the situation would happen. Botman can press up like this, keep himself there, and Shaw and Burn staying back, or Tonali holding back. And what you had before was Kovacic, have Shaw, as he did against Arsenal, press up high against, it was Declan Rice at the time, Kovacic, and you'd have Botman staying back, almost just acting like as a sweeper of Dan Burn, and Tonali, who I think can keep up with Haaland, just staying back and making sure that if a ball does come over the top, he's there to support his back line as well. And that's how they did it. The other option, obviously, you can see Silva and Lewis free there. But if Guardiola, this is a very dangerous ball. If Guardiola gets this ball wrong and he gets it cut out, Gordon, Isak, Murphy, Bruno, any of these guys latch onto it, they leave their defense exposed. So, and even if it does manage to get to Silva, he hasn't got necessarily the pace to drive up like a Gordon or an Isak does. And you can still be blocked up. You have Tonali following him, Burn here to cut him off as well. So they'll have to try and find a way to play through us. The danger, though, is obviously Mamouche. Mamouche adds that extra play, adds that extra pace, and he'll be trying to break the lines. So it'll be interesting to see how, in that situation, does Trippier hang back, for instance, and to see where Mamouche is going to be to make sure that Botman isn't too exposed as well. Whilst Tonali's marking, Tonali's marking Haaland. Those are going to be the key dynamics there for Newcastle as well, to make sure they don't get caught playing in from their backline, don't get caught by a counter attack from Man City themselves. So it's going to be really interesting. I think I wouldn't be surprised that if Eddie Howe employs the tactics he used against Arsenal to win this game. So that'll be my take. Let me know what you guys think. So send in your predictions, guys. I'm going to give you guys my predictions after the comments. Send in your predictions. I'm going to give my conclusion on the show and give my predictions as well. Give me your scores. What is you guys' thoughts? Would you play a 5-4-1, or do you think we should just do our usual 4-3-3 and just 4-4-2 out of possession and just go for it? Go for the jugular, hit that midfield, play Willock, play Tonali, play Bruno, press the absolute life out of their midfield and take dominion at the Etihad. Hey, I could see that. Or my approach might be a little bit too reserved, So let me know. Maybe Eddie Howe takes a chance and says these Man City guys are going to be thinking about staying in the Champions League. And you know what? If we can hit them early, maybe he might go for that 4-3-3. He might do that. Let me see what you guys are saying. Send in your predictions. Let me know. Aaron Kainth, as brilliant as Burn. Oh yeah, I think I read that one. Sophie B, yeah, I agree. Would have been good. Best game of Saturday instead of we have Arsenal and Leicester. Yeah. So yeah, exactly. We should be playing in the evening, shouldn't we? Mighty Mag, yeah, bang on, Sophie. What else are you guys saying? Let me know what you guys' score predictions are. Sophie B, excuse me. Sophie B, Aaron, I disagree. Burn this season has earned his place. He has been elite. Shaw is the one that needs to be changed. And interestingly, Bruno Guimaraes himself feels that Burn is. There's a clip saying of Bruno Guimaraes saying that he feels that Burn has been a player of the season so far for Newcastle, which is really good to see. Aaron came. Sophie, 2 left footers just doesn't work for me as two-footed as Botman is. Can't forget about the games prior to Arsenal. Shaw and Burn both were great. So debate there as to who's going to play out the back. Yeah, that's what we have at the moment. The squad is small, but Shah has had more bad games. So if you beat Philip, I disagree. I don't think we play all our three centre backs again. Okay, I think that was to get to a final, and I completely agree. Okay, yeah, it might be. You know what? It might be that Howe just goes for the juggling this one because Willock adds so much. So especially in the transitions, but also in the pressing. So if I take off, I don't know who you would take off. I think if Burn is fit, he plays. Maybe Botman. That's the difficult part though. I see how playing Burn over Botman and keeping Shaw. Or does he play Botman and Burn? I'll stop. I'll run over. But yeah, it's an interesting conundrum there. I think Willock for his pressing game would be absolutely devastating against Man City. Bernardo Silva and the rest won't keep up with him. Can you see that starting lineup for the final? For me, Mighty Mag, I see us playing how we played against him at St James's Park. I feel like against Liverpool we'll play the 4-3-3. I think we'll give it to them, honestly, like how we did it last time. We were close. We were very close in that game. If they didn't have Salah, I don't think Liverpool win that, get the draw in that game, and the referee. I see the final is also on ITV. Crazy. Hi, it's not BBC. Loudmouth Football, good to see you, sir. I hope you are well. Guys, send in your score predictions for the Man City game. 4:30. Sophie, yeah, the League Cup's moving to 4:30. Any more? Aaron Kempf. I can see Isak dropping into the channels. Yes, like he did against Saliba and Gabriel. Into the channels and destroying Man City. Bruno Tonali Shah have the quality to find him in the channels, in the counter. Yeah, him and Gordon. That'd be beautiful. Especially if we're getting that type of rhythm. That'd be wonderful to see. Aaron, agree, Aaron, it's the blueprint to beat Man City, to be honest. Gordon, Murphy, Isak on the counter is deadly against any team. Man City are vulnerable to counters right now. Absolutely. Sophie B with the predictions. Thank you. 3-1 to the Tomb. Brilliant. Aaron Kane, 2-1 to Newcastle. Brilliant. Mighty Mag, 3-2. How away the lads. I'm so happy that you said that, Mighty Mag, because I remember you being so right about the Fulham game. So the fact that you're saying this, I'm really happy as well. Adam Redman, I don't know if it's your first time on the show, but you are so welcome. God bless. 3-1 to the Tomb. And you know what, guys? I love the scorelines. And I believe that Newcastle win this game as well. I think it's going to be a high scoring game. City, even with their vulnerabilities, score a lot of goals. But I think the Madrid game showed me that there's something in their mentality, in Man City's mentality, where they just know they can't keep a lead. And they know they haven't got legs at the back. They know they're vulnerable in the midfield. Ake, Grealish being injured doesn't help them. Rico Lewis, or is it going to be Rico Lewis, or is it going to be Kosanov, who showed his vulnerabilities against Chelsea? There's so many issues from there. It's like it's so tilted. You got on one hand Erling Haaland, Mamouche, and the damage these guys can cause, but on the other hand, you've got the vulnerabilities that I mentioned. Newcastle are a little bit more consistent. We don't necessarily have the quality that they have, but we're a more consistent team across the park. I think Newcastle win this game 3-2. How away the lads? And that is my thought. So, guys, thank you as always for joining the show. We talked about from the beginning, we talked about the various news around Newcastle United, the links to Johan Bakayoko. We talked about, obviously, Mr. Nicholas Kuhn from Celtic, who've been linked to as well. The possible contract or non-contract renewal of Callum Wilson, Shaw, Kraft, and all the other guys as well. But also the PSR, how PSR is going to stay, and there's going to be no other thing that's going to be added to it, no wages to turnover or SCA or anything like that. I think that puts Newcastle in a very, very good position going into the summer. But guys, and we've done the tactical breakdown for the Man City game. Some really, really positive scorelines here as well. I love to see it. Love to see it. As Sophie B says, smash the likes, everyone. Subscribe if you're new. If you're new, great channel, great guy, great content. Thank you so much, Sophie B. That's high praise. Appreciate you for that. And Aaron Kate, thank you, Philip. Great show as always. Good night or good night to everyone. As always, folks, make sure you look after each other. Make sure you have a great evening. And as always, folks, God bless, folks. Take care now.